What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Julia, and in today's video we're going to be talking about how I plan for the new year, specifically heading into 2023. I am very much so someone who is always hungry, never settle, love having new things to strive for and work towards, and I absolutely love a new year. Not in the sense that it's like a fresh start, but just in the sense that there's always room for growth, and a new year is just such a great excuse to kind of set your standards even higher and work towards even bigger goals. So today we're going to do a deep dive into how I kind of go about goal setting for the new year, my vision boards, and just kind of my thought process and mindset when it comes to it. So before sitting down to actually film this video, I did a little self-reflection, a little year in review. I basically sat down and assessed how this past year went. I looked at every metric, every analytic I could find, my finances, my spreadsheets, and kind of determined whether or not this year lived up to my expectations, whether or not I achieved all the goals I set for myself, whether or not I was satisfied with how I spent the year. And from there, I set my new goals for 2023. I feel like looking back at how you did, what you did, how you spent your time is a great way to assess yourself and better prepare you for the next year. It can kind of tell you what to change, what not to change, and how to go about the year ahead to bring success. And I want you to keep in mind, this isn't something I just do at the very end of the year. I'm constantly assessing myself pretty much on a monthly basis just to kind of keep myself in check, keep myself on track, and make sure I'm doing the things necessary in order to achieve the goals I set for myself. And I feel like that piece I just mentioned about continuous assessment and self-reflection is super important to mention, because oftentimes people will set goals for themselves, but they don't really have a way of keeping track of those goals or checking in with themselves to make sure they're on the right track. And sometimes people don't even know how to go about working towards those goals. They don't really have a game plan. So if you're someone who does set goals for the new year, make sure you have a game plan or little stepping stones along the way for each of those goals, and also have a way to check in with yourself and assess how you're doing and whether or not you are on the right track for achieving that goal. And I know I'm throwing the word goal around a lot. I'm hoping we all know how to properly set goals, and I'm sure we've all heard about SMART goals. I personally set some broad goals and some very specific goals. It just kind of depends on the goal. Hopefully that makes sense. But it is really important to have meaningful goals. That way you're way more likely to actually put energy into them and work towards them, because they mean way more to you. Like, you truly want to achieve them. Don't just set a goal to set a goal. Make sure it's something you are truly passionate about, you care about, and you want to achieve. And since I touched on it, if you haven't heard of SMART goals, it's basically just an acronym for helping you create a clearer, less vague goal. That way you know exactly what you are working towards. So the S in SMART stands for specific, the M stands for measurable, the A is for attainable, the R is for realistic, and the T is for timely. I personally love SMART goals because I love that it leaves no room for question. Like, I love how clear and concise it is. And I truly think that when you're setting a SMART goal, it makes the whole game plan and like stepping stone process of the goal way easier, and it makes the goal way more achievable. Because if you think about it, a goal that's specific, there's no question. You know exactly what you are trying to achieve. You know what that goal is. If it's measurable, then you have a way to keep track of your progress, make sure you're on the right track. If it's attainable and realistic, that means it's realistic for you. You know you can achieve it if you put the work in for it. And if it's timely, you have that end time cap that you need to achieve it by, and that helps you work towards it at a proper pace, making sure you're not procrastinating, making sure you're doing what you need to do when you need to do it in order to achieve it by that timeline. And I know I said I love SMART goals, I really do, but at this point in my life, I've gone through so much goal setting, I've achieved so many goals, and I've gone through so much game planning for achieving goals that it's not really necessary for all of my goals to be SMART goals. I'm someone who sets a ton of goals. We're about to get into how I set those goals, but I set goals at the start of each year, I set goals at the start of each month. I really set goals any day, anytime. I'm a why wait kind of gal, like the best time to start is now. So I'm constantly striving to be better, setting new goals for myself. I'm always hungry, okay? And with all that being said, it's not really necessary for all of my goals to be SMART goals. Some of my goals are very broad, very generic. I'll get into some examples later. And then some are very specific. So just keep that in mind, and let's get into how I actually go about setting those goals. So when it comes to my actual goal setting process, I always make sure to write things down. I usually make a note in my phone, 2023 goals, and list out everything. And then I also take pen to paper and write everything down in my planner. I'm gonna be honest, I definitely see my goals list in my phone way more frequently than the one I write in my planner, just because when I'm in my planner, I'm normally on whatever day of the week it is at that time, not looking at the front of my planner at my goals. But I do think there's something so like powerful and important about physically writing pen to paper every single goal out. So I make sure to do both. And then for my specific goals, I break them into 3 different categories. The first category are my own personal fitness and physique goals, whatever I want to achieve for my own personal fitness and my own personal physique for that year ahead. The second category would be my life goals. So these are oftentimes the very broad ones. For example, one of my life goals this past year was to move to Florida. Just little things like that that I want to achieve just for my life within that year. And then my third category, probably the most important and the biggest category, I always have the most goals in this category, would be my business category. If you didn't know, I have my own personal training business, but I also lump in social media with this because while social media technically isn't my job, I do get a lot of my income from what I do on social media, working with brands, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Like, that is a big part of who I am and what I do, and I don't think my personal training business would be as successful if it weren't for social media. So I put tons of energy into both of them, and I set goals for both of them. So typically I end up having about 10 goals set at the start of each year, usually 1 to 2 in that fitness physique category, 2 to 3 in my life category, and then like 5+ in the business category. It really just depends on what I have planned for the year, what I want to achieve, what crazy ideas I have. And of course, if I achieve those goals, I'll set more goals for myself, or even if I just think of a new idea, a new thing I want to do, I'll add that to my goal list. It's not like those 10 I set are the 10, and if I achieve them, I'm just gonna chill. No, we never settle. And I also don't love setting goals that are super easy and I know I'll achieve, you know? I don't like goals that are too realistic and attainable. Kind of contradicting myself here, but I also love setting some very far-fetched, very like shoot for the moon type of goals. Not every goal is this way, but usually like 1 to 2 each year are very far-fetched, and I think it's because it makes it so much sweeter if you do achieve that goal, knowing it was one of your goals that was like almost near impossible, but you put the work in and you made it happen. Like, it just makes it so much sweeter. So of my 10 original goals for the year, I would definitely say 1 to 2 of them are very far-fetched. And I keep saying 10 goals like it's this set in stone number, but just know some years I have more than 10, some years I have less than 10. It really just depends on the goals I have in mind, what I want to achieve. And like I said, sometimes I add some to the list if I achieve some. It just depends. So for the sake of this video, we'll kind of average it out to about 10 at the start of each year. And once I have those goals, then I create my vision board. And I'm gonna be honest, I was always that person that was like very against vision boards, and I never bought into like manifestation and journaling and visualization, which is so funny because I was a sports psychology major in college. Like, I am very aware of how the brain works, but that was just never my cup of tea until I started making vision boards like I do now, and now I'm obsessed. I love them, okay? But literally this is the only time I ever make vision boards. I make one a year, and I set it as my phone background, not my lock screen. No, we're not looking at that full picture, never. I set it as my home screen, and it is hidden by all of the apps in front of it. But what I do is I obviously have all my goals written out. Then I go to Pinterest. I find a very aesthetic photo to match each of my goals. So each goal has its own photo. It may not be an exact match, but in my mind, that photo matches that goal. Then I get on Canva or even on Instagram and I make a collage of those aesthetic photos that match up with my goals, and I set that collage as my home screen background. Like I said, it's covered by apps. I'm rarely actually looking at it, but my brain is subconsciously seeing that thing every single day, probably hundreds of times a day. I'm constantly on my phone. I work on my phone. Like, my brain is always seeing that vision board. And the first year I did this, I'm gonna be honest, I completely forgot about it. Completely forgot about it until like December 30th. And I was like, holy cow, I completely forgot about every single goal I had set. I completely forgot about this vision board that is on the back of my phone. What the heck did I do this year? And I looked at the full photo, the full collage, and I was literally shook. I had achieved every single goal on that vision board except my one very far-fetched goal. Like, literally my jaw was on the ground. I was like, holy cow, I did that without even actually knowing I was doing that, but my brain knew I was doing that because it was subconsciously seeing it every single day. And since then, I now make a new vision board every single year with my goals for that year, and I love it. And it's also so fun finding aesthetic photos to match up with each of my goals. And every time I mention that my phone background is my vision board, I get so many people asking to see the actual collage, but I never share it. That's just something I like to keep private. I have some very personal goals that I don't want the whole world knowing, but then I also have some goals that I don't care if you guys know. In fact, I share a lot of my goals with you guys on this YouTube channel and how I achieve those goals, and I love doing that. But when it comes to my actual vision board wallpaper, I keep that to myself because it's personalized to me, it's meaningful to me, it's my specific goals, and it's aesthetically pleasing to me. Like, there'd be no benefit to you in seeing that vision board, because when you create yours, it's going to be personalized and meaningful and aesthetically pleasing to you, and it's going to have to do with your goals. But just so you can visualize it, it's basically a collage of pretty pictures that match up with some goals. I'm sure you could even look up a full vision board on Pinterest and you could get some ideas, but choose pictures that are meaningful to you and align with your goals. Collage them together. You can even collage on Instagram, like create an Instagram story collage. You can make it however you want to make it, piece those pictures together, put it as your phone background, and amazing things will happen. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but your brain is subconsciously seeing that all the time. I personally look at my phone way more than I look at my 2023 goal list in my notes or my 2023 goal list in my planners. Like, I see my phone background way more, so that's why it works for me. But maybe you don't want to make a vision board. Maybe you don't even want to write it out. Maybe you're someone who likes the sticky note goals on your mirror, so you see it every single time you walk into your bathroom. That would honestly drive me crazy, but I know it works for a lot of people. So do what works for you. I'm just sharing my experience, and for me, the vision board on my phone works best. Now, I know I've been talking for so long, but I quickly want to sum up my personal New Year goal setting process into 3 simple steps. Just remember, this is what I do. I'm not saying you have to do all of this, but it works for me, and I love sharing what works with me with you all. Step number 1, and probably the most important step, would be that self-reflection, self-assessment, sitting down, assessing how the past year went, and kind of gauging your next year from there. But remember, you also want to make sure you are continuously checking in with yourself, assessing how things are going to make sure you are on track. Step number 2 would be the actual goal setting, making sure those goals are meaningful and purposeful and that you genuinely want to achieve them. That way you're more motivated and hungry to put in the work that is necessary in order to achieve them. And then step number 3 is making my vision board. This is the fun and creative part, and it's just a way that I can see my goals every single day without actually knowing I'm seeing my goals. Yes, sometimes I do find myself actually looking at my collage behind all of those apps, but usually I don't even remember that it's there. But my brain sees it every single day, and I truly think it makes all the difference. So that's my 3-part process, and it works for me, and I hope if you try it, it works for you too. And with that being said, I'm gonna wrap up this video here. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned from it, and I hope this is helpful when you sit down to set your 2023 goals. I've got some big things planned for 2023. I am very excited, and I'm wishing you all a happy new year. If you did like this video, don't forget to give it a like, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.